What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's another episode of JohnnyVTV Live. Missed you last week. My apologies. We're celebrating the birthday a little bit. Trying to pick out some winners here. But you know what? We got my boy Nick Durst ready to give out the best bets of Week 8. How's it going, Mr. Durst?
Listen, I'm doing well. Got the World Series tonight. I'm talking that, but listen, I think this is going to be a bad series. We already started in the first two games, back-to-back blowouts, and I think that trend's going to continue. And we'll see what happens. But looking forward to the World Series, and definitely looking forward to the games this weekend. I think there's definitely some better games than last week, which was kind of a weak slate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely we're not all the way there yet with this slate this week, but we got a good one going on. You know what I mean? It's just much better than last week, but it's still not all the way there yet. Tuesday, we touched on our reactions to Week 7, what we're looking forward to this week. So kind of dissecting a little bit more into it. Let's start it off here. Dolphins, Bills. Bills laying now 14, over-under sitting at 48.5. Which way is the wind blowing for you on this game?
Listen, I think the weather might be a factor in this one. We're getting some nasty weather this weekend in the Northeast, so probably by Sunday, up in Buffalo, it's going to be quite a mess. But it's a big line. But I'm leaning towards the Bills here. I think I'm going to go under though, because I just don't know if the Dolphins are going to be able to repeat what they did last week, where he had 3 or 4 touchdown passes, but they still lost. So encouraging sign there, but I just think the Bills, their defensive line here is going to be into his face quite a bit, which is what the Bills kind of tried to do in the offseason if they wanted to go and compete deep in the playoffs here. The Bills, they could smell it now. They have a clear path to get the 1 seed. They're coming off they had that brutal loss against the Titans where Allen falls down on 4th down. Arguably there, the Bills should have won that game. No, you're not as high in the Bills, but the Dolphins have just become such a dumpster fire this season. Brian Flores, maybe you feel bad for the guy. It looked like he was going to turn it around, but ultimately they just don't have the talent there necessary. And, you should every time you give a Bills game, expect good things from Diggs. And, Allen's probably going to, run for over 50 yards at least and throw a couple of touchdowns. So I think in this one, I could see the Bills putting up around 21, 24 points. Dolphins, maybe they're around 7 to 10 points in this game.
So the one thing that I find noteworthy here, aside from the fact that Miami, especially if it's colder weather now, they're getting a Buffalo game in Buffalo, early November, late October, early November. So this is not really the prime position where a team from Miami wants to be traveling into on the road. They really don't. Right. But aside from that fact, this is something that's so interesting. The Bills have beaten Miami 6 straight times and 8 of the last 9. In the last 6 matchups, Buffalo has scored at least 30 points in every game. Miami hasn't scored on Buffalo 30 on Buffalo since Christmas Eve of 2016. I mean, the fact of the matter is because the Bills are 3-0 straight up, 2-1 against spread under Josh Allen off a bye. I got to be honest, man. I don't know if we're going to see a lot of resistance from Miami. I know a lot of people are playing for their jobs right now, and similar to, not exactly the same situation, but like look at the Raiders, for example. A lot of their players, they're playing for a job. They want to get it done for next year. But at the end of the day, like the talent disparity right now, the play is just, it's not even close. I have to take Buffalo. I originally got him at minus 13.5, so I'm sticking to that number, but I would play him to 14. It's a big spread. I typically don't like these big spreads, but Buffalo beat him 35-0 earlier in the season. I mean, that 35-0 wouldn't have looked as bad. Miami had a couple bad turnovers in the red zone, things that just kind of went against them. They lost Tua in the middle of the game, got Jacoby Brissett replacing him. But at the end of the day, man, Miami is going nowhere. They haven't covered a spread since week 3. Dude, week 3, they haven't covered a spread. They have one of the worst defenses in football. They have one of the worst offenses in football. I know it's a divisional game, but at the end of the day, bro, Buffalo's 6-3 against the spread against Miami since 2017. I think Buffalo is going to big brother the Miami Dolphins' little brother.
Well, it's, you mentioned big spread. We have 3, according to PointsBet, 3 spreads over 10 points this week. And I think you ultimately have to pick the favorites in all these. I mean, the big numbers, but we were just seeing some. There's some really good teams in the league this year, as you see in the NFC. But then there's some really brutal teams. There's really not many teams in the middle of the pack this year, like you usually see. I think middle of the pack teams. You look at the Colts, the Patriots, the Vikings, but overall, it's really a lot of top heavy, a lot of bottom dead weight in the NFL this season. All right, we're back after some technical difficulties. Johnny V's power went out, so the stream was stopped there. So we'll kind of walk you through some things here for the time being as we wait for John to come back on. So we're looking at Dolphins Bills. John made some great points, but since 2017, the Bills are 6-3 against the spread against the Dolphins. And the only time Buffalo didn't cover at home was October 20th, 2019, when the spread was 17. The Bills won by 10. So again, we're talking about big spreads here. Bills defense is tied for the NFL lead with 16 takeaways, the best turnover differential in the NFL at plus 11. And to me, that's kind of why I'm saying it's going to hit the under here, because I just don't think Miami's going to be able to muster much offense. Tua had the big day, but that was against the Jaguars, of course. Now, off a loss, it's 3 easy games here for the Bills, for the most part. Taking on Miami, they'll win that game. They're going to play Jacksonville, who they're going to beat. And then they got the Bills. And the Bills, then they have the Jets. So if you're looking at the Jets, everyone likes to smile on their schedule when they see that, because the Jets are just pretty much brutal, and you can bet against them every week for a win, and you're going to win more times than not. But crazy that they beat the Titans still. Now the Dolphins this season are 2-5 against the spread, and they haven't covered a spread since week 3, as John mentioned. And they're the second worst scoring defense in the NFL. They average giving up 29.6 points per game, right behind the Washington football team, which is the worst. They have the worst total defense. They're allowing 414.9 yards per game. The Dolphins are also the 5th worst offense, 307.6 yards per game. That's what they're getting. And they're the 4th worst scoring offense in the NFL. Only scoring 18.1 points per game. So, Dolphins may get blown out, but Bills are going to have to put up a lot to hit the over there. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, a lot of rumors with the trade deadline coming up next week. Potentially Deshaun Watson could be headed to Miami. Will he be able to play, though? Not too sure. We're going to move on to our next game here. Without John here, we cannot control the scroll on the bottom of the screen, so ignore Dolphins at Bills for now. Moving on to the next game. We're going to talk about, that's going to be the Cowboys at the Vikings. It's a big game for the Vikings, who are looking to become a playoff team. Both teams are off a bye right now. The over-under is 52.5, and the Vikings are favored at -3. Both teams are top 5 in total offense. The Cowboys are number 1 in total offense with 460.8 yards per game and points per game with 34.2. The Cowboys are 6-0 against the spread for the first time in franchise history. And Zeke is looking like maybe he still has some gas in the tank. He has 5 touchdowns in the last 4 games. The defense is tied for 3rd in the NFL in takeaways of 14. The Cowboys have scored 35 points or more in each of the last 4 games, while Trayvon Diggs is leading the NFL with 7 interceptions. His interception every game this season, which is crazy, and he has 2 interceptions that have gone for touchdowns. The Cowboys are 3-1 against the spread following a bye since 2016 with Dak Prescott as quarterback, of course, while the Vikings are 2-4 with Kirk Cousins off a bye in his career. And the interesting thing here is the Vikings are 2-1 against the spread as underdogs this season, but again, they are favorites in this game, which is a surprise for the most part. And the Vikings have won 3 of the last 4 games. I think the Vikings need this win more. I expect them to come out there, and I believe that Cousins is going to have a tremendous day. He'll continue to stay hot, and the Vikings are going to just do what they can here to kind of get into the postseason. And they're in a good spot for the most part right now. At 3-3. If they win this, they go to 4-3. The Cowboys are never going to get in the playoffs. The Cardinals will get in the playoffs. The Rams are going to get in the playoffs. The Packers will be in the playoffs. And the Buccaneers will be in the playoffs. If you go to 4-3 as the Vikings, and you're assuming the Bucs are going to beat the Saints this week, you are the 6th seed. So you're in there with some breathing room. So the
I'm so sorry. My power legit just cut out in the middle of an epic spiel. But apologies, Nick. Thanks for holding down the fort. Let's get back to business here. What were we talking about?
Oh, I was just talking about how if the Vikings are able to win this week, they are going to control their own destiny when it comes to going to the playoffs. Because when you look at it, if the Vikings win this week, and you're going to assume the Bucs will beat the Saints, the Vikings would be in at the 6th seed, which gives them some breathing room. And it kind of leaves the 7th seed up for debate between a bunch of teams under 500. So it's going to be interesting who gets in there with the 7th seed in the NFC. Maybe the 49ers or the Seahawks could kind of turn it around. I guess you can never really count out the Bears, even though they've been dreadful. But I think the gets in the Saints.
We can count out the Bears. We can count out the Bears. I think, honestly, realistically, like the Vikings, this is a big one for them, not only in the NFC, but it looks like Dak Prescott's probably not going to play. They're very pessimistic about it. I think once he gets officially ruled out, I don't think he has been yet. The line right now, it's really done a 180 earlier in the week. So I've seen the Vikings at +3 at certain points earlier in the week at the books, and it was really starting to teeter down to Vikings -2, 2.5, then down to 1.5, down to 1. And the only logical explanation was because there had to be some uncertainty from things in people inside knowledge knew about Dak Prescott. It's not looking good. So the lines had to be moving. And then lo and behold, now the Vikings are -3. So maybe if Dak Prescott officially gets ruled out, let's say today or tomorrow, the Vikings might now be -5, -6, maybe even -7. I mean, the fact of the matter is this is a good spot for Minnesota coming off a bye, just like Dallas, but they're fully healthy. Dalvin Cook's going to be back. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Kirk Cousins. I mean, Minnesota is in a prime position right now to really take control. I mean, if you look at it, although Minnesota hasn't put it together this year, they had the bad fumble that might have not been a fumble week 1 against the Bengals. Week 2 against Arizona, they should have won. Greg Joseph sails it wide right on a basic chip shot field goal. It sucks. But at the end of the day, here's what we got with Minnesota. They've won 3 of their last 4. They are in a prime position to really take stranglehold on a wild card spot right now, and you just alluded to it. They are in control of their own destiny. It starts Sunday night. I'm expecting big things from Kirk Cousins and company. I do like Minnesota. If I got to be honest, I liked them before. I liked them regardless of what the spread was. Them as dogs. I like them anyway. Yeah. I think Minnesota's going to cover this, and I got to tell you, if you could get this 3 right now, I mean, it's definitely a gamble. I don't think Dak Prescott's going to play, and if he does play, how effective is he going to be? This calf is big. Dak Prescott, yes, he's been pretty good from the pocket for the most part, but still a lot of his game is mobility, rollouts, the bootlegs, on the move, extending the play, scrambles, whatever the case is. That's a big factor of his game. I still like Minnesota -3 at home, man. I think Dalvin Cook's in for a big game, and I think that Dallas defense isn't that good. It's going to get exposed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't done a great job of, stopping the run this season. So they're playing maybe one of the better running backs they've gone up against all year. And the Cowboys, I mean, they have a great record, but I thought the Chargers blew it against them. I thought the Patriots blew it against them. So, that's football, though. A few bounces either way, and your record could change greatly. So I think, we know the Cowboys are going to win the NFC East because it's just that dreadful of a division. But they're by far going to be the worst division winner come the playoffs.
Yeah, they got a real cupcake schedule. Division's not good, so they're lucky. I mean, they might be able to sleepwalk their way to a 2 seed, to tell you the truth. I mean, the one thing maybe holding them back is, and there's going to be some head-to-heads that are going to be key, but if Tampa Bay can keep winning and the Rams can keep winning and the Rams take the head-to-head against Dallas, that might bump them to a 3. I mean, your Cardinals lost last night. Kyler Murray looked terrible. Kudos to Green Bay, though. Down your top 3 receivers, down your defensive coordinator. Aaron Rodgers proves why he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. Still gets it done. Still on the road on a short week against a 7-0 team, finds a way to get the flat-out W at a 6.5-point dog. And we talked about this. Davante Adams being out the last 2 seasons. Rodgers is now 7-0 straight up without Davante Adams. 6-1 against the spread. It just goes to show what this guy can do. Everybody loves to talk trash about Aaron Rodgers, but I digress. Neither here nor there. The main point is, if the Rams beat the Cowboys, the Bucs already beat the Cowboys, head-to-head, you never know. It looks like Dallas could potentially be a 3 seed. This is not a game. It's a bad game to lose, but it would be understandable if Dak Prescott is not under center.
Yeah, I thought even with Prescott under center like you, I thought this was a prime game for the Vikings to win, and I fully expect them to do so.
100%. So last game I wanted to really point out, and this is another one. This is another one that's done a complete 180. The Titans were -1.5, 2 most of the week. A lot of late action came on Indy, flipped it to Titans +1, then up to +1.5, then +2. Now, right now, it's sitting at +2.5 for the Titans at the Colts. And the big thing about this game is Julio Jones is going to be out. I don't know what's going on with my boy Julio. I thought he left Sunday's game against Kansas City with no setbacks, but you just never know, man. It's just, I don't want to say it's old age. Not that he's old, but, a lot of wear and tear, the hammies, whatever the case is. He's not going to play. That's a big loss. But at the end of the day, though, I know everybody's riding the Colts hard here because it's basically a must-win for them to keep in for their division lead. But I got to be 100% honest. I want to ride with the Titans against my better judgment. This is a prime letdown game for them after 2 huge wins against the Bills and the Chiefs back-to-back. I'm still going to ride with Tennessee. 5-2 against the spread this season. They took it to the Colts earlier in the season. Their run game, obviously. I mean, Derrick Henry Derrick Henry's last 5 game against the Colts, the king will be in his court. 625 yards, 5.7 yards per carry, 5 tutties, 4 straight 100-yard games for the king in his last 5 games against the Colts. And I don't know, man. I don't buy Indy's resurgence. I think they shouldn't have scored 30 against the Niners, in my opinion. I think, they played the Texans the week before. They should have beat the Ravens. Like, yes, they do look better, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them pull off a tough divisional win at home. But I got to be honest, I'm just not buying Indy this year. Their defense doesn't look the same as last year. They got a lot of injuries in the secondary. I don't love Carson Wentz. Jonathan Taylor's starting to really pick it up, so I think he'll probably have a strong game. I'm going to ride with the Titans and Ryan Tannehill on this. And now that it's +2, I put it on my slate Tuesday at -1, but now +2.5. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, I like that you mentioned Jonathan Taylor because he's second in the NFL in rush yards. So
behind who?
Derrick Henry. So
by how many yards? If you don't know, it's fine. I'll tell you. 290 yards.
Yeah.
290 is the difference between first and second place. Henry and Jonathan Taylor this year. Oh my God, he's absolutely insane. This guy, he's amazing.
I mean, Jonathan Taylor is doing now what we thought he was going to be coming into the league last year. We knew he was going to be an impactful player. To me, there's just something about the Colts that I just can't get on board about with this season. Wentz hasn't looked great. I think I would feel a lot more better about this team if they actually were able to get Rivers to come back for one last season. I think Rivers at this point of his life is still better than Wentz, I think. And I wonder if Wentz, if they don't make the playoffs, if he's going to be a starter next year in the league. I doubt it. But what's good for him is it's a very weak NFL draft class, no doubt about it. I think the Titans are going to win this game. And, so it's surprising to see them now as underdogs. So, I mean, I think I got to take the Titans in this one. If the Colts, it seems like the public's all in on the Colts. Obviously, it's because it's a home game, but, the Colts didn't show anything last week in a crazy game that makes me think like, okay, they're definitely going to come here and win this game over the Titans who are rolling. And you did mention, it's going to be a letdown game potentially because the Titans are coming off 2 incredible wins. As our co-host Kyle will let us know. But they really got to win this game. It's important. They're playing your Rams next week, so they got to keep the momentum going here. Right now, they're in a position where they are essentially tied for the 1 seed in the AFC, so they want to keep that going. And I think because it's the Colts, they're going to be up to play because they know that's their only rivals in the division. And if they win this game, I would say their chance to win the division goes to probably like 90%. So I think they'll be ready to go and they're going to win this game.
Absolutely, man. So, now it's time, I think, to get to our best bets here. I'll start it off with the player props. First off, I don't have a ton here. I'm going to keep an eye out on a couple things here because the lines aren't up yet. But first off, I got to start with Jamar Chase, over 80.5 yards. I mean, the kid's just been absolutely insane. He's lights out. He's over in almost every week of the season in terms of his yards. Against the Jets, I think he's going to get a couple long gainers. I do think Cincinnati could be able to put this one away by the end of the third quarter. But listen, I think Jamar Chase could go for 6 catches, maybe 115 yards, a tud. So I do like Jamar Chase to go over here. Justin Herbert's an interesting one. Under 291.5 passing yards against New England. I think not only New England's going to cover this week, I did get him at the +5. You know what I'm saying? Like, always take the road team getting 5 or 5.5. But for whatever reason, I'm not even alluding to last year when the Colts or the Chargers got beat 45-0 by Bill Belichick's team. I'm not even going to mention that, although I did. But the thing is, I don't know. I just have a feeling Bill Belichick's going to cook something up. I know the Chargers are coming off a bye week. I'm not saying that the Chargers don't necessarily win. I mean, I think New England covers. They are live for an upset, in my opinion, because the Chargers have the worst run defense in football. They're not good against the short passes, and those are 2 things the Patriots do best. The Patriots are going to run the ball a ton, throw short passes. I don't see this being a track meet necessarily where Mac Jones is going to be dropping back 45, 50 times. Justin Herbert's been a little bit off lately. He's gone under in 3 of his last 4 games in the yardage prop. Laid an egg against Baltimore. I don't know if they come out firing. And now we're hearing that maybe Austin Eckler, he's on the fence. He's got a hip injury. He sat out of practice yesterday. Late week additions to the injury report are not usually good. So I'm not 100% there yet with Herbert. I need to see. I think this could be a sneaky tough matchup for him. I think this will keep him under 291.5 yards. As a fantasy owner, I wouldn't be upset to see him go over 300, but neither here nor there. Next is Ezekiel Elliott over 16.5 carries. I think whether Dak Prescott plays or not, we're going to see the Cowboys turn around, hand the ball off to number 21 and number 20. But listen, 17 carries for Zeke Elliott. I know they're trying to keep him fresh and not give him the 25 carry games anymore. But when you look at it, look at his last 4 games. 17 carries, 21 carries, 20 carries, 17 carries. And the game against the Chargers, he had 16 carries. So I think, especially if Dak officially doesn't play, this number is going to go up. So I would get it at the 16.5. It's perfectly feasible to see my guy Zeke Elliott hit 17 carries against the Minnesota Vikings in primetime. Last but not least, it's not on the bottom. I caught it late. I'm going to play this here. The odds aren't very great. Mike Evans, under 5.5 receptions. It's minus 150 against Marshawn Lattimore and the Saints. I put out a whole tweet about this. Mike Evans, in 4 of 8 career matchups against Marshawn Lattimore, has been held catchless. He's 10 for 200, 2 touchdowns against Marshawn Lattimore in 8 career games. That is not very good when you get down to it. No Antonio Brown. Even if Gronk plays, he's probably going to be a little bit limited. You're not going to run the ball very well against New Orleans defense with Leonard Fournette because their run defense is top 3. Chris Godwin, it might be his show. I think Mike Evans is going to be in a tough bout here. I think I would probably go under 5.5 catches for Big Mike. I don't see him getting over 5 against Marshawn Lattimore. What say you, Mr. Durst?
So it's interesting you brought that up. I'm going Tom Brady over 2.5 touchdown passes. Because you mentioned the rush defense is good for the Saints. So even if they're doing dink and dunks, which is Brady's specialty, I think the Bucs are going to put up points here. Brown being out is a big loss. But I think this is a game where Scotty Miller comes to play and kind of could sneak behind some guys and maybe find him for some big yards. Brady's just on a tear here. He wants that MVP. I think 3 touchdowns is a safe bet almost every week for Mr. Tom Brady. I'll also give me the under in the Lions and Eagles. The Lions have hit the under in their past 5 games. I don't know. They just seem to play teams tough in the sense that their defense is okay, but they're not going to score. And you know that the Eagles are pretty much a disaster for the most part as well. So I would like to take the under in that win. Let me see what currently the under, it keeps changing, but under 48, I think that's a pretty safe bet in that game. And then last but not least, I'm going to go, you got to go with the Bengals plus 10.5. I mean, Mike White is playing quarterback here for the Jets. Against the Bengals. Of course, the Jets, they lose 54-13 last week. They gave up like 21 points before they even got a first down. It's going to be brutal for the Jets. It's going to be very scary for their fans on Halloween there. There's no trick. It's going to be horrible for them. And I think, originally I think for the Bengals, maybe like on a 16 line early in the week, but I think I would have took that too. I think the Bengals are going to be the Jets by at least 3 touchdowns.
That is fair enough. So I'll say this. One guy left off, and the line isn't up yet, but I want everybody to keep an eye on it. I want everybody to keep an eye on Deandre Swift receptions. He is on an absolute tear. In fact, he's on pace for almost 100 catches this year. Do you know how wild that is for a running back that's not McCaffrey, not Alvin Kamara, even though Kamara's I don't think he's ever had 100 catches, but like a guy like McCaffrey, even Austin Eckler, a guy that's not, he gets more of the lion's share over Jamal Williams as he should, but he's not a guy that's getting 30 touches every week. Like, he's not that guy. He's just not a guy that they force feed it and find ways to get the ball. I mean, now it is because, the Lions are playing from behind a lot. It's a lot of checkdowns from Jared Goff. That's exactly why I drafted him in fantasy. It's exactly what I was expecting this season. I knew Dan Campbell wanted to turn Deandre Swift into the Walmart version of Alvin Kamara, catching a lot of passes out of the backfield. So I would definitely keep an eye on that. Now, in terms of the best bets I have for the week, and not giving all of them, you got to check out Gambling Guinea's weekly taste on Sunday. We'll start it off here. And these are all my lines to start it out. That's what I got them at. So the lines may have moved. Sounds like a you problem if you didn't get it, but here we go. First off, we're going to get the 2-team teaser. We've been on a little bit of a cold streak here, but we're ready to get back on it. The Bills -7.5 against the Miami Dolphins. We touched about it. I think they're going to win outright, cover their flat spread, 13.5, 14, whatever. I think Buffalo is going to put a hurting on it. They're off the bye. They got a last-second gut-wrenching loss against the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football. I think Buffalo's live to hang a 40-piece against Miami. And second leg of that teaser, we got the Bengals -4.5 against the Jets. Bengals do look good. I don't think they're for real, to tell you the truth, but going against Mike White, not that Mike White versus Zach Wilson could necessarily be a huge drop-off, but I think Cincinnati should win this game by at least 7 points if they don't flat-out cover their 10.5. Flat-out bets here. We got the New England Patriots +5 against Chargers. I touched on it. I think they are live to get the upset, but I do like the road team getting 5 or 5.5. I always back that. I think Bill Belichick's going to have something up his sleeve, even though the Chargers are coming off a bye and a brutal loss against the Baltimore Ravens. Next, we got the Bills -13.5. That's what I got it at. I'd still play it at 14. You heard me talk about it. I think they're going to throttle them. They've put up 30 points in 6 straight games against Miami. I just don't see Miami coming into the colder weather up north in Buffalo, way overmatched and putting up too much of a fight. This is where it gets interesting. I got the Lions money line at home against Philadelphia Eagles. At some point, the Lions are going to have to get a win this season, I think. They've been very close. They threw everything at the Rams last week. Kudos to Dan Campbell. They threw everything but the kitchen sink. The Eagles, I wasn't big on them coming into the season. I don't like Nick Sirianni. I don't like what he's doing. I don't like how he's calling an offense. I think Philly, they were lucky to beat Carolina. Carolina legit just handed them that game. If it wasn't for that, Philly's just not good at all. They have some garbage time numbers that make them look like they were more competitive than they actually were. I think Detroit is going to give them problems this week. I don't know how it's going to get done. I do like the Lions to get this done at home. I really do. Next, same thing here. The Giants +10 in Kansas City. My favorite thing about the Giants, although they are better on the road, the most interesting aspect about the New York Giants is one thing I find, honestly, pretty hilarious. So the last 4 times they've been road dogs of 10 or more points since 2019. They're 3-1 against the spread. They've covered 3 straight matchups in this spot. Kansas City, I do think, is going to get the win. They are reeling. They need to get it together quickly. If they lose this week, it's almost pack it in for the season time. But at the end of the day, the Giants, even with their injuries, I think somehow, some way, they're going to put up enough of a fight to cover 10 points in Kansas City. I don't know how. It might not make a ton of sense. But all of a sudden, the Chiefs' defense is not just going to get better like that. I think Devontae Booker could have a good game. You know, if Shepard plays, we got to see what's going on with Babytron, Kadarius Toney. But I think the Giants are live to cover this spread. I think it's just going to be somehow, some way, New York gets it done.
Yeah, and I wonder if they'll be conservative with Mahomes coming off the concussion last week, and maybe that'll play a factor here. You know, there's a small chance Barkley plays. I doubt it. He's been at practice limited, but the Giants, give credit to Joe Judge. Just when it looks like the Giants are dead and out last year too, he somehow rallies the team and they play for him. And you know, last week they just shut down the Panthers, who look horrible without McCaffrey. Sam Darnold is seeing ghosts again. He's brutal. But you know, it's, you know, kudos to Joe Judge. Everyone wanted to run him out of town, and now he's kind of sucked people back in.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to see for sure. I'm going to be glued to this one on Monday night because I want to see what the Giants are going to do in prime time against Kansas City. More importantly, I want to see what the Chiefs are going to do. They've been punched in the mouth. They haven't been punched in the mouth too many times in the last few years. So there's a lot of adversity going on. But I got to be honest, dude. Like a lot of the woes they've been experiencing are self-inflicted. Patrick Mahomes is just making stupid mistakes, out of character decisions with these interceptions, and they're costly because they're like in the red zone or when they're driving. It's just a dumb decision. And now there was a report coming out, I think from a press conference that he did that, or somebody was saying that Mahomes has been saying that he's just been too impatient. He's been too impatient. He's not taking those short checkdowns, the short throws. He just wants to launch it downfield. And you know what? Like, listen, Mahomes knows what he has to do. He even said, listen, I've got to play better. That's what he told his teammates. So I want to see how Kansas City comes out on Monday night. This is a big one, dude. Like, they need a statement win. And this is not the statement win against the Giants. But the point is, you got to show that, listen, we're going to rebound. We're going to be back from this. And you got to put a hurting on the New York team that, quite frankly, does have no business being on the same ball field as you. Last note on that, the Chiefs have only covered 2 spreads in their last 9 games. They are 3-14-1 ATS in their last 18 games. Something's got to change. So for our emerging player of the night, brought to you by Emerge Sports Group, our boy Chahan. Might have him on next week. You never know. I'm going with Calvin Ridley, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons. I pegged him this season coming into the year as going to be the league leader in receiving yards, the number 1 fantasy receiver. And I got to be honest, I don't know what's going on with him. He's getting plenty of volume. The downfield throws have not been there. I don't know what it is. I mean, Kyle Pitts now starting to come into his own, and now the fact that Kyle Pitts is emerging, maybe it's going to help him. Calvin Ridley without Julio last year was dominant. He was slicing and dicing defenses like there was no tomorrow. Ridley's had some really bad drops this year. He's just had some bizarre games. He's not doing what he's capable of, and it just doesn't make much sense to me. I think maybe there could have been some growing pains in this Arthur Smith offense. It's still going on. Atlanta's starting to get back on track a little bit, but I do think that Calvin Ridley is going to have a big game against Carolina. If not now, when? Pitts is finally playing. Cordero Patterson's out of his mind this year. Matt Ryan's heating up. Arthur Smith is calling pretty good plays. Ridley's getting enough of a target share. Let's go, Mr. Calvin Ridley. You're one of the best route runners in football. You are one of the most explosive players at the receiver position. It's time to wake up.
Yeah, I think Matt Ryan's in for a big day. The Panthers are just uninspiring here as of late. They're really reeling. And, Matt Ryan, they got a chance here to make the playoffs. They do as the 7th seed. So
don't get my hopes up. I'm not even thinking.
I think you disowned the Falcons once they traded Julio Jones.
I did, but
what do you think about?
I'm like, it's a toxic.
How do you feel about Kyle Pitts though this year? Like the way they used him.
I love Kyle. One of my leagues, I took him at 5th. I might have stole him in the 6th round. I was like, listen, I got to get 1 share of Kyle Pitts across my league and my teams this year. I have to. Like, I was so big on this kid coming out of Florida, as a lot of people were. I was like, listen, is he going to be the heir apparent to Julio? Possibly. I mean, I love what they're doing with Kyle Pitts, and now like. He's caught up to the game speed. He's starting to get the workload. He's got 9 targets per game over his last 2 weeks. I see that's going to keep ascending, and he's just going to keep getting more. I love what he's doing. Do you see what he did against Xavier Howard last week? Xavier Howard's one of the better corners in football, and he destroyed him. He had 5 catches of 20 yards or more. Kyle Pitts, the unicorn's coming out, man. The emergence of Kyle Pitts, I love what I'm seeing. He's so much fun to watch. He looks like I got to tell you, bro. I got to tell you, he looks better right now. I'm not saying statistically. I'm just saying when I watch him. I'm saying from a visual perspective, that's it. When I watch him on TV, what I'm seeing, he looks better than prime Gronk. He looks better than prime Jimmy Graham. He is big, fast, strong, can run routes. He looks phenomenal. I'm not talking about statistics. I'm not talking about, the career-wise. I'm just talking about from the eye test. This kid looks like the real deal. I love what I'm seeing from Kyle Pitts, and I hope he keeps it up. I want him to keep turning out those 100-yard games. Matter of fact, out of all the tight ends this year, that includes Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, it's Kyle Pitts that has the most yards per game at the tight end position this season at 78.5. I want to see that keep going up. Let's roll Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, Arthur Smith has been good for the most part. If the Falcons win, they're at 4-3. You have to root for the Bucs, I think, if you're a Falcons fan this week. So you can kind of, get even with the Saints and set yourself up for a playoff race down here going towards the second half of the season.
I'm not getting my hopes up. It's a toxic relationship, Nick. It really is. It's just like that ex-girlfriend that you were with for so long. And then it's just like, if you break up and you're just, you still might be thinking about it a little bit, but God bless. Let's see. If they make the playoffs, then, I'll be happy for them. But as we're wrapping up here, Nick, give me your final thoughts heading into week 8.
This week is going to tell us a lot about not only the playoffs, but the draft as well. So, the Lions, I think they're going to win. So that's going to leave a few teams in the race for the top pick with the Jets and the Dolphins, who I expect to lose, and the Texans are going to lose as well. So things will be heating up there as well at the top of the draft. The Seahawks might end up with a top 5 pick, but that's going to the Jets. Pretty good trade there by the Jets to get the first-round pick for Jamal Adams. The Bears, their pick also goes to the Giants, so we could potentially be seeing both New York teams with 2 top 10 picks each, which would be quite interesting. So things are definitely heating up there. And, I think the Patriots-Chargers game is going to tell us a lot about both teams and where they're headed here for the rest of the season. We all thought, week 2, week 3, all right, slam dunk. The Chargers are going to the playoffs. We all said, we all know their quarterback's great. They have a shot here to win the division, no doubt about it, especially with the way the Chiefs are playing. And the Patriots, if they have any hopes of making the playoffs, they got to win this to get back to 500. It won't be easy, though. They're not playing the Jets again. I don't expect them to put up 50 and hold Herbert to under 21 points. So it's going to be very interesting, that matchup.
I'm interested to see the playoff race as well here. I would say I'm interested in this Patriots-Chargers game. I think it will tell us a lot, like you said. I want to see how the Chiefs are going to respond, as I mentioned. I want to see how I hate to say it, but I want to see how the Bengals are going to do, how the Rams are going to do, how the Bills are going to do. These 10-point favorites. I want to see if there's going to be any letdown. Not that I'm rooting for it, because I might be teasing a couple of these other teams, as we saw in the 2-teamer. I want to see what the 10-pointers are going to do this week. 2-1 against the spread last week. Are the favorites going to keep coming home? Or is the book finally going to get a winning week? It's been very profitable. It's been some of the most profitable betting for the public in the NFL in recent memory lately. Is the tide going to turn? Or is the favorites going to keep winning and the public just going to keep bankrupting these sports books? That's what I want to know. So thank you for joining us here. Another great show, and apologies for the internet outage. Spectrum, you're absolutely killing me right now.
Hey, you were just paying homage to the Super Bowl a few years ago with the 49ers and the Ravens when the power went out midway through the Super Bowl.
I was. You know what? I was. I absolutely was. So you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at _JohnnyVTV. He's at Nick_Durst. We got a great slate. Hope everybody does well with their bets. See you next week.